But one of the critical issues arising, not just from Ogun State, but even from some other primaries where there are disputes, is this idea that on the one hand, the party leadership is saying, well, if you engage in the process and you go and you try to resolve the dispute within the mechanisms established by the party, then you go to the appellate committee, appellate panel, submit your petitions, etc., etc. But we all understand now that the appellate panel is merely advisory in nature, and that ultimately whoever the body that is going to enact or choose not to enact the recommendations of the appellate panel is still the same NWC that is at odds with many of these factions within the party. So I want to ask you, if that is the case, what is the real recourse for justice for party members who feel that the NWC has essentially set themselves against certain party members?
Well, I'm not sure there's such evidence that NWC would sit down and just treat the recommendations of our panel, appeal panel for that matter, with levity. I mean, the people we put together are eminent personalities. People that was led by a professor of law, a former governor, a former senator, Professor Sumbo. So you wouldn't put such a panel in place and then you say whatever they are doing, goes to no issue. That wouldn't happen.
Let's take a look quickly at a legal situation unfolding, of course, within the state chapter of your party in River State. Obviously, a very contested primary process between Senator Magnus Abe and his group and Sir Tony Ekole and his group, of course, with the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, on the side of Mr. Tony Ekole. Essentially a Supreme Court judgment that, in view of a lot of legal observers, essentially would conclude that there is, as of today, no state executive committee of the APC in River State, and that as a result, depending on how you read it, Tony Ekole's group is saying that essentially because statutory delegates voted in that primary, the indirect primary that gave birth to his candidature, that he still would remain the governorship candidate, whereas Senator Magnus Abe's group is saying that as a result of this judgment, because they conducted an indirect primary, a direct primary rather than indirect, that he is the party's governorship candidate. What is the position of the national leadership of the party in River State?
Yeah, as of today, NWC has not taken a position because this has to do with legal issues. And then we have a very robust process of assessing all these issues and relating with the fact as advised by our legal team. And in no time, we would come out with a clear position on what the party think about that judgment. And as we have said, the position of the party is that court judgment, bad or good, we would not disobey.
All right, at this juncture, we're just going to throw it over to Lagos, where my colleagues are standing by with some questions.
Now, let me get your thoughts on this, because it is believed that if your chairman, Adams Oshomole, doesn't call a meeting to try to resolve some of this what you call conflicts, according to you, in your party, the APC, there just might be that possibility that so many of your members will defect. Do you share the same sentiments?
You see, I would say people moving from one party to another in Nigeria generally, it's just to show that democracy is still growing. Party politics has not come out the way it should be in a climate where you have advanced democracy. But I can also say that party members understand that it's not all the time things would fall into place the way you want it. Sometimes it could turn out not the way you want. And it's part of party politics to ensure that people have the opportunity to ventilate their anger, and then there's procedure to listen to them and to ensure that you give them the opportunity to resolve these matters. So we are doing our best to ensure that such members are listened to, and that we carry out what would suit the best interest of party members, the best interest of APC, the best interest of Nigeria. You know, so we would continue to do our best to ensure that no matter what the situation is, we don't allow our members to go out of the party. We would provide them the platform to enjoy their rights and exercise their rights within what the law permits. So we would continue to do our best.
Okay, in line with your submissions, you say that it's everything you want to do is in the best interest of your party. So what are you doing about the instances where names have been removed or even substituted in some cases, in some states, and you have got aspirants that are really aggrieved that their names have been substituted or totally removed? What are you doing about that?
Yeah, well, in states where you have such coming from, you know, most of these things that people say, you may conclude that they are just what happened, but it may not be. Whenever we have such evidence that something like that has happened, that's why we empanel that team that listens to everybody. And then we look into it, and if such thing had happened, then we'll make sure we do the correct thing. So we would not willfully remove somebody's name who has clearly won an election or at the primary. We won't do that. And but where we have evidence that anything like that happened, in whatever way it happened, it is our responsibility to ensure that such person get justice.
A statement we heard from the chairman of your party, Comrade Adams Oshomole, is that 90% of the APC are behind him, and so he has no fears, according to him. But when you have that little percentage that's remaining that are not backing him, does that pose so much of a concern for your party, such that you may just have a situation where the crisis, or what you call conflict in your party, gets even worse before we get to 2019?
I think the situation can only get better. The party leaders or members that are aggrieved, it is our responsibility to ensure that we listen to them and ensure that they don't have any reason to leave the party, and that the crisis that you are referring to, but which is just normal, where you have people jostling to push interest, you would ensure that as a party, we actually do our best to ensure everybody at the end of the day gets justice. That's what is important. Once you know that the system would assist you in getting justice, then you will be comfortable with that. So it's our responsibility to ensure that everybody gets justice. And the leaders who are currently not happy, we are doing our best to ensure that we relate with them in a manner to bring them back fully in and ensure that whatever the grievances are addressed. And we will do that. And we just want to urge everyone to exercise restraint. As party members, we also have responsibility to ensure that we assess the platform to seek redress, rather than going public to ventilate our anger. So we would continue to do our best, and the party is very responsive to issues like this, and we would deal with them.
Very well.
We have so much respect.
In 2014 or thereabout, the All Progressives Congress was riding on enormous goodwill of the Nigerian people to come into power, because the people were expecting a different modus operandi, expecting things to be done differently. But right now, what's out there in the public space is more or less substitution of candidates or names, rancor within the party members are not happy, accusations and counter-accusations between the followership and the leadership of the party. What exactly would you say is happening? What happens to the expectations of the people?
I think what is happening is just politics. And as I said, conflict is just part of politics. And conflict resolution is part of politics. You don't forget that the essence of all this is about people pushing interest. And when you push interest, they become conflictual. And then the important thing is to have a platform to ensure that everybody gets justice at the end of the day. So you may not get a situation where you have absolute harmony. It's not something you would get in politics. So, but what is important is, do we have the capacity to deal with those issues fairly, in a transparent manner? That's what the NWC is up to, and that's what we try to do all the time.
What's clear is we still so many issues to get into. We understand that a reconciliation committee is being put in place potentially next week regarding some of these issues. Whether or not that's going to stop the crisis that is currently bedeviling your party is another issue. We're going to get into that in just a moment after we come back from this short break. Our viewers, please do stay with us.